I thought it might be worth doing a full-length video on the Nashville Numbers System, and I touched on this subject in a recent video I did on learning 30 songs in one day, and a few people expressed an interest in a more detailed look at how this thing works. So I've done a little bit of research. I'm going to give you some history on the system. I'm going to explain exactly how it works, and then I'm going to be looking at some real-world examples. And essentially this is an easy way of transcribing, i.e. charting out or writing out songs. And it's very simple, it's very elegant, and it doesn't involve very much tiresome music theory, which makes it ideal for us guitar players. And it's primarily about writing out chord progressions, although it can accommodate simple riffs and melodies as well. And I suppose in a sense it's music theory for people who don't really do music theory, and if you're one of those people who are confused by traditional music theory, or if you're kind of allergic to it, then this might be the ideal solution. And there are lots of benefits of having a basic understanding of the Nashville Numbers System. Firstly, I think it makes it so much easier to communicate with other musicians, and it means that you're going to be able to write out songs, whether it's your songs, somebody else's songs, and then when you do get together with other players, whether it's in a rehearsal kind of context or you're jamming or you're recording, everything just runs much more smoothly and easily. And it's also great if you just want a quick way of writing down tunes for your own benefit. So you want to keep a record of songs that you're writing or songs that you're learning. It's very quick and easy to do that. And also, as I tried to demonstrate in the aforementioned video about learning songs, it does really speed up the process of learning new tunes. And also in the process of writing out songs in this way, you just get a much deeper understanding of music. You really start to understand how songs are put together, the harmony, the rhythm, song structure, which is, you know, essential stuff for any musician, and particularly if you're interested in songwriting. And one further massive benefit of understanding this is it will really improve your ear. This way of writing stuff out really forces you to think in terms of chord progressions. You've got to be able to hear the root movement of these chords, hear whether the chords are major or minor or seventh chords. And I think it's no coincidence that a lot of great Nashville players are amongst some of the best kind of ear players in the world. So this system came about in the 1950s, and it was developed by a couple of different people. And firstly, somebody called Neil Matthews Jr., who was a singer in the group the Jordanaires, who were kind of a gospel country group, and he developed this system as a way of teaching the other people in the group their vocal parts. And then it was further developed, I believe, by someone called Charlie McCoy, who was a Nashville harmonica player, and he recognized that you could use this system not just to describe single notes and melodies, but also to describe chord progressions. And the key idea here is that we're numbering the chords in a key, and it's a very elegant system. You've simply got a series of numbers which can be used to describe any chord progression, and one of the main advantages of this is it's very easy then to change keys, because the chord progression in terms of numbers is always going to stay the same irrespective of what key you're in. And I suppose it should be said that this is not a new idea that was just invented in the 1950s. It's just a new way of describing something that has existed for hundreds of years. It's actually very similar to the Roman numeral system of analysing chord progressions that some of you might be familiar with, and going even further back, it's quite similar to figured bass that you come across in kind of the Baroque period of classical music. And this all took off and became quite quickly very widely adopted in Nashville, I suppose because there were obviously lots of amazing musicians there, but they didn't necessarily have a traditional music education. They might not have been able to read traditional music notation, you know, unlike I suppose in other centres of music at the time, so New York, Los Angeles, where players perhaps were from more of a jazz background and they were more likely to be able to read traditional charts and notation. Let me just briefly go over the basics before we get into some specific charts. And the one little bit of music theory that you do really need to understand here, the starting point for all of this, is the major scale. And I'm sure many of you know the major scale already, but for those of you who don't, it's just do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I'm sure you all know the sound of the major scale. So we've got 7 notes, and it's really the starting point for most of Western music. It's kind of our reference point, and it's the reference point in the Nashville Numbers System as well. And what makes the major scale sound like a major scale is a particular pattern of intervals, a pattern of tones and semitones or whole and half steps if you prefer, and it works like this: from any given starting note, then the next note is going to be a whole step higher, then another whole step, then we've got a half step, then we've got whole, 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 and then we've got another half. So that's all that you need to remember, really. We've got whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And a whole step or a tone is just the distance between two frets on a guitar. So from any note on the guitar, so we start here at the 5th fret, go up 2 frets, that's a whole step. A half step is just a 1 fret distance on the guitar. So we could construct a major scale. The simplest way to do this is along the length of one string. So say we start at the 3rd fret on the low E string, and we're just going to apply that major scale formula, this pattern of whole and half steps. And if we do that, we've got whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. We've got a major scale. In this case, it's a G major scale because I'm starting from a G root note. So that's one way of playing a G major scale. And that interval formula is going to stay the same regardless of what note you're starting from. So it's a G major scale if you're starting from a G, but if I want to start from a B flat, for example, I'm just going to apply that pattern of wholes and halves. And I've got a B flat major scale. So it's very simple once you know that formula to apply it to the guitar fretboard. It's kind of logical when you see it along the length of one string like that. It's also worth being able to play it in position as well. So another important scale fingering might be this. So again, if we start from a G, you could play a major scale in the same position on the guitar like this. And there are clearly many ways that you could play the major scale on the guitar. I'm not going to get too much into that in this video. It's something that is definitely worth exploring though. But a good starting point is just to know that interval formula, that whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Be able to play a major scale along the length of one string and also be able to play a major scale in position. And if you know that, then we can get up and running with the Nashville Number System. So we have our major scale. The next step is to number the notes in the major scales. So we've got 7 notes. We're just going to call those notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we can apply chords to each of those notes, which is going to enable us to describe chord progressions. So working once again with our G major scale along the length of one string, this is note number 1, and we can apply a chord to that note. And let's make it a G major chord, just playing a G major bar chord here. We can describe that as our 1 chord, and if we're in the key of G, this is our home chord, if you like. And then we can go through the rest of the notes in the scale and apply chords to those notes as well. And the chords that naturally occur in any major key are a particular pattern of major and minor chords. So the 1 chord is major, the 2 chord is usually minor. So here I've got an A minor, the 3 chord, this is the note built off of the 3rd note of the major scale, that's a B minor, and then the 4 and 5 chords, these are usually major, so we've got a C and a D major chord, and then the 6th chord, that's built off of an E note, that is an E minor chord, and then the 7 chord, it does theoretically exist, but it's not very widely used. So for our purposes today, and when we're using the Nashville Number System, we can effectively just ignore that chord, but it's actually a F sharp diminished chord is the 7 chord, but very, very rarely do you come across that. So we've now got our series of 7 different chords that belong to the key of G major, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 chords. It's worth memorizing that pattern of major and minor chords because that's what generally occurs if you're in a major key. So the 1, 4, and 5 are major, the 2, 3, and 6 are minor. And in fact, when it comes to the Nashville system, you don't even need to worry about that pattern of major and minor chords too much because it's always very clear from the chart. So where you just see a number written down, then it's always assumed that the chord is major. If you want a chord to be minor, then you have to specify, and there are a couple of common ways of doing this. Usually you'll write the number and then a dash after it, that indicates that the chord is minor, or you could just write a lowercase m. So I told you this was simple. We've got numbers, and those numbers indicate the root notes, and if it's just a number on its own, then it indicates a major chord. If you want a minor chord, then you just have to have that dash or the lowercase m. And the system can easily accommodate more complex chord types, and also root notes that fall outside of the major scale. So if you've got a root note that's not in the major scale, then you just have to describe it in terms of how it differs from the major scale. The major scale is kind of the measuring stick, if you like. So for example, if we are in the key of G and we've got an A sharp chord or a B flat chord, then that note there, it's 1 fret below the third, so we could describe that as the flat 3 chord. If you've got an F chord, for example, then that F note is 1 fret below the 7th degree of the G major scale. The 7th degree of the G major scale is F sharp, 1 fret below that is F, so we can describe that F chord as a flat 7 chord. And likewise, if you want more complex chord types, you just have to specify. So if you want a 7th chord, then you write the number and then a 7 after it, or a major 7, or whatever chord type you like, 13ths, extended chords, all of that can be written down in this system. We have root notes, we've got chord types. The other element we need for a Nashville Numbers chart is rhythm. And once again, it's very elegant and simple. So if you just see a single number in a chart, then it indicates that you're playing that chord for 4 beats or 1 bar. So if we've got a number 1 written down on a chart, it just means you've got 4 beats on the 1 chord. And if you want more than 1 bar on a particular chord, you're just going to write down the number again. So if you want 4 bars on the 1 chord, for example, you just write 1, 1, 1 and 1. Or the first 4 bars in a 12-bar blues, you might write 1, 4, 1, 1, which indicates 1 bar on the 1 chord, 1 bar on the 4 chord, and then a couple more bars on the 1 chord. And what if we want to change chords in the middle of the bar? And that's very easily notated as well. So say we want 2 beats on the 1 chord, 2 beats on the 4 chord. What you would do is just write 1 and 4 and then draw a line underneath both of those numbers, and that indicates that those 2 chords are sharing the same bar. So 2 beats on the 1 chord, 2 beats on the 4 chord. An alternative way of doing that I've seen in some charts is just to put those 2 numbers in brackets or parentheses. Those are the basics of this system then, and you will see occasionally more complex symbols and markings to notate more complex chord progressions or more complex kind of rhythmic situations. You might, for example, see dots above numbers to indicate exactly how many beats you need to spend on a particular chord. You can have arrows going forwards or backwards to indicate rhythmic pushes. From what I've seen, different people have slightly different ways of writing out Nashville charts. I don't think it's a completely standardized system, but I think I've covered most of the basics. And of course, if you're writing out these charts for your own benefit, then feel free to personalize them, and you can add in your own notations and symbols if it makes the music clearer to you. I hope you're starting to grasp how this works then. Now I want to look at some actual real world examples, and I've got a few charts for you. I found all of these charts online. I've not written them out myself, and they seem to be quite authentic examples of Nashville Numbers charts. And I wanted to start with a familiar tune. I'm going to assume that most of you know this one, and it is Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash, an absolute country classic. And the chart that I found online looks like this, and I think it's a fairly typical looking Nashville Numbers chart. You can see you've got the title of the tune, you've got the key and the time signature in the top left hand corner, and then we've written out the tune. You've got the series of numbers there, and it's divided up into the different sections. You've got the verses and then a couple of guitar solos as well. And this tune is nice and straightforward. It's just a 3-chord song, just made up of the 1, 4 and 5 chords in the key. So majority of country songs you come across are going to be based around the 1, 4 and 5 chords. So I think this is a good place to start. And the 1 chord is going to be our home chord. The actual chord name, it's going to depend on what key you're going to play this tune in. And I know this one says key of F, which I think is the key that the most famous Johnny Cash version is in, but typically I think guitar players play this using an E chord shape and then maybe using a capo to change key. So let's do this in the key of E. That means E is going to be our home chord. That is our 1 chord. And then we want our 4 chord and our 5 chord. And remember, the major scale, in this case the E major scale, is going to be our reference point. So our 4 chord, we're just going to count up the major scale from our starting note. That leads us to an A root note, and we're just going to play an A major chord. All of the numbers here, they've got no minor symbols, no other chord symbols, so we're just going to assume that all of these chords are major chords. So we've got the 1 chord is E, 4 chord is A, and then the 5 chord is going to be a B chord of one kind or another. So we could play a B chord like this. Typically you would actually play the 5 chord as a 7 chord, so I can actually play a B7 chord here. So you know, to some extent the chord symbols here, the numbers are open to interpretation, so you can throw in some extra extensions, 7th chords, things like that, if it sounds good. So we got our 3 chords. Now we can plug those chords into this actual structure, and let's begin with the first verse. I'm going to come back to the intro, I think, and you can see that you've got 1 1 1 1 4 4 1 1 5 5 and 1. That's a verse of this tune. So 4 bars on the 1 chord, 2 bars on the 4 chord, 2 bars on the 1 chord, 2 bars on the 5 chord, and then we're back to the 1 chord for another bar. And the feel of this tune is kind of it's that kind of train beat country thing. From the actual chart you don't really get much information about the feel, so you do have to kind of know the tune to get the actual strumming pattern and that kind of thing. And depending on how you count this, I mean, it could be 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1. So 4 bars on the 1, and we're going to the 4 chord, 2 bars, back to the 1 chord, we've got the 5 chord, and back to the 1 chord. So that would be our first verse. And this is a nice simple tune. Actually, all of the sections are the same, so the verses and the guitar solo. So very straightforward in terms of a chart. We've just got the intro and the outro, which might be worth talking about. So if you think about how the tune goes, there's actually a little riff at the top of the song. So you can see that that's written down in the chart, and in the box there we've got that little rhythm. We're actually coming in on the and of 3, so you can actually get some traditional notation in here. It's just a bit of rhythmic notation telling the person who's reading the chart that we're going to come in on the and of 3. It's 1 and 2 and 3, and then we're hitting the 5 chord, which is the B7, and then the 1 chord. So it's a simple way of notating that intro. Notice that we don't get the specifics of this actual lick. It's just telling you what beat you have to come in on and then what the overall chord at any given moment is. That's something you don't really get from Nashville charts, the specifics of an actual guitar part. That's something you're going to have to listen to. You have to know the tune if you're going to play that exactly correctly. And also take a look at the outro. We've got the 5 chord going to the 1 chord. It's 4 beats on the 5 chord, and then we've got this little box and with these dots underneath the numbers, so that's indicating how many beats we've got on these chords. So we've got the 1 and then 3 dots, and then we've got another one with this diamond shape around it, and that diamond shape is just indicating that we're letting that chord hang. So this is really indicating how you're going to end the tune. We've got 4 beats on the 5 chord, 1 2 3 4 to the 1 chord, 1 2 3 4, and then we're ending on the 4 with a long strum, and that's what these dots underneath the numbers are telling you. So 3 beats on the 1, and then on beat 4 we're going to let that last chord hang to end the tune. Let's look at another tune then, and how about another country classic? This is Sweet Dreams. It's a beautiful chord progression, and this chart's a little bit more complex than the Folsom Prison one. So you can see that we've got some minor chords in there as well. The 6 minor, that's indicated by that little dash after the 6. And we've also got some chords that are sharing the same bar. So remember, if you've got a line underneath a pair of numbers, it indicates that you've got 2 beats on the first number and 2 beats on the second number. So let's run through this chart then. This one, the chart's telling us it's in the key of A flat. I think that's the key that it was originally sung in. So we've got an A flat here, the 4th fret on the low E string. That can be our root note, our home note. So we've got our 1 chord here, and if we just look at the first A section, we've got those diamonds round the chords once again. So that's indicating we just got these kind of long strums on the chords to begin with. If you listen to the tune, I think it's before the actual band kicks in. You've just got these sustained hits on the first couple of chords. So we've got the 1 chord there, and then we've got the 2 chord. So just now thinking A flat major scale. There's the second note in the scale, and this is actually a major 2 chord. There's no minor indicated, so we're going to assume that it's a major chord. So we've got 1, 2, 3, then the 2 chord, and then we've got the 5 chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to be an E flat, and then we've got the 1 chord again, 2, 3, and then the 2, and then the 5 chord. And really you're not getting any rhythmic information from this chart other than the number of beats that you're going to spend on each chord. So that's where it's open to interpretation. You have to listen to the song or know the song, or you're playing with other musicians who are going to ask you to play with a certain feel. But this chart isn't giving you a specific strumming pattern, for example. But continuing on with the second half of this verse, you can see that we've got the 1 chord, 4 beats, we've got the 4 chord, the 1 chord, then we've got the 6 minor chord. So the 6 minor chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be an F root note, and we're going to make it a minor chord. We could play it down here. And then quite interesting here, we've got these lines underneath this series of chords here. So it's 2 beats on each of these chords. Here we've got the 1 chord, and then we've got 1/3, and that's telling you that it is an inversion or a different bass note. So we've got the 1 chord with the 3 in the bass. So the 1 chord is A flat, but the 3, A flat, B flat, C, is the note C. So we want an A flat chord with a C in the bass. So you could perhaps play that like this. So that's frets 3, 6, 5, and 4. So it's an A flat slash C, or an A flat in the first inversion. So it's just a way of indicating that a specific bass note is required. So you can play that on the guitar. In practical situations, you might actually just leave that to the bass player and just continue playing the 1 chord at that point. But that's what's indicated by this chart. We've got 1, 2, and then the inversion, and then 4, 5, and then 1, 4, 1, 5. And this is another tune where once you've got the basic chord progression, it's just repeated for all of the sections of the song. And it should be said that to be able to interpret these charts quickly and to be able to find these chords does require a certain amount of knowledge of the guitar fretboard. You're not just going to be able to immediately read down a chart if you don't know where to find these root notes. So it's obviously really important to know the names of the notes on the fretboard. This is something that I'm always banging on about, and in particular the names of the notes on the 6th string and the 5th string. It's those strings which are often going to be giving you the root notes for your chords. And also important to know your relationships between chords in different keys. So a good starting point would really be to know your 1, 4, 5 chords in the most common guitar keys down in the open position. This is something I've done a whole video on. So if you're in the key of G, for example, you just want to know that G is the 1, therefore C is the 4, and D is the 5. And you've just got that bunch of 3 chords that go together. If you're in the key of A, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. You've just got that stuff right there under your fingers down in the open position. And then if you're not in the open position, then you also want to have those root notes mapped out. So if you're in the key of A, for example, you've got your 1 chord here, the root of the 1 chord, then your 4 chord is going to be at the same fret over on the 5th string. The 5 chord is always going to be 2 frets higher than the 4 chord. So you've got 1, 4, 5. You kind of got that relationship between the chords. I see that as kind of an L shape. You see the root notes there of the 1, the 4, and the 5 in that kind of L configuration. If you've got your 1 chord starting with a 5th string root, so say we're in the key of D, that's the 1 chord. The 5 is always going to be directly above it at the same fret with a 6th string root. So that's 1 in D, so that's the 5 chord, and then the 4 is going to be 2 frets below that. So we've got 1, 4 and 5 from that 5th string root starting point. Again, it's kind of an L shape that you've got on the fretboard, but it's been slightly rearranged. 1, 4 and 5, and those L shapes are kind of movable depending on the key you're in on the starting root note. And if you've got that kind of fretboard knowledge, then it's actually very easy to take a Nashville chart such as this one and to interpret it on the guitar in various different keys. It's one of the main advantages of this system, is it's very easy to change keys, which you'll frequently be doing if you're playing these tunes with a singer. Very often they're going to ask to play it in a different key that kind of suits their voice. So if just take this tune Sweet Dreams as an example, what if I wanted to play this in the key of G? So the numbers are going to be exactly the same, so I'm just going to be thinking G is now going to be the 1 chord, and I'm just going to follow the chart. So G is the 1, A is the 2 chord, then D or D7 is the 5, go around again, 1, 2, 5, and we got 1, 4, 1, and then 6 minor, and we got 1 with 3 in the bass, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. So very easy actually to play the same chord progression in a new key like that. Let's play it in the key of E, but maybe up here. So a 5th string root bar chord as the starting point. So that would go like this: 1 chord, 2 and 5. Round again. And then 1 to 4. 1. And then 6 minor. 1. And then the inversion. 4, 5. And for me, an important thing is the visual layout of those root notes on the fretboard. So I spoke about the 1, 4 and the 5. If you want the 2 or the 6 minor, the 6 minor is always going to be 3 frets lower than the 1 chord. So if the 1 chord is here, and you've got the 6 minor there, and then obviously the 2 chord is going to be 2 frets higher than the 1 chord. So pay attention to those intervals on the fretboard. It's really helpful. Let's look at one more example then, and it doesn't just have to be country music, although it does work particularly well for that style of music, but it works great for pop tunes as well. So I've just found a chart of From Me to You, the Beatles tunes. So that would look like this, and this has got quite a lot of chord changes flying around, but it works in exactly the same way. So it's telling you to play this one in the key of C. That's going to be 1 chord, and we've got 4 beats on most of these chords. You can see that some of these are underlined, indicating 2 beats and 2 beats, but it's starting off with just 1 bar on the 1 chord, and then the 6 minor, and then that repeats. That's our introduction. So if C is our 1 chord, I'm just thinking 3 frets lower. That's going to give you the root of the 6 minor chord, which is in this case A minor, C to A minor, and then da 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 da, and then 1, 5, 7 chord there, so that's going to be a G7, and then 4 chord, which is F, and A minor. So just to turn it around there, you can see you've got 2 beats on the 1, 2 beats on the 5, 7 chord, and then the 1, and then the 6 minor chord, and then it goes round for another verse in the same way. So 1, 6 minor, 1, 5, 4, 6, 1, 1. So that's our verse, or the first couple of verses. Then we've got a bridge section that's just indicate you've got BR written in a box, and you can see that the bridge is starting on the 5 chord, but it's a 5 minor 7 chord, and the minor is indicated by the dash, and then you've got a 7 after that as well. So it's going to be a G minor 7. So we could maybe play that here. So bar chord at the 3rd fret to the 1 chord, but it's a 1-7. So we're going to play a C7, and then F, the 4 chord, and then the 2 chord, but it's a 2-7. So it's going to be D7, and then the 5 chord, which is G. Then it's got 5 plus, and plus symbolises an augmented chord. So you'd need, whoops, I dropped my pick. You need a G augmented. So maybe, how would you do that? Maybe something like that. So 5, 4, 4, and 5, maybe with the thumb in the bass. As I say, this chart doesn't tell you how to play these chords. That's something that you need to be able to find yourself on the guitar. If you want to play this really authentically, exactly like the Beatles, then you need to study exactly how they were voicing some of these chords. And without listening to the actual recording, I'm not absolutely sure. But that's one way of playing a G augmented. So that would be the bridge. And I thought it might be quite interesting to finish with an example of where the Nashville Number System doesn't work quite so well. And for me, its strength is when you're dealing with songs that are very much chord progression based. So that's why it works so well for country music, for lots of forms of pop music. But when you're dealing with songs that are based on riffs, so rock tunes, metal tunes, for example, then I don't think these charts work quite so well. And an example that I found is the AC/DC tune Back in Black. And I'm sure most of you know this tune, but it's very much a riff-based kind of a song. So you can see that the chart does outline the correct basic chords. So if we're in the key of E, you've got E, flat 7 chord, which is D, and then the 6th chord, which is A. Giving you really none of the flavour of the song, which is all based on these fantastic riffs. So, and then of course you've got those little fills in between the riffs. So, and none of that is really written out in this chart. It's just giving you the overall flavour of the harmony. Again, in the chorus there, it's just saying 5, 5, 4, 4. It has actually written kind of 4, 1, 5, 4, 5 in brackets. All kind of gets a bit confusing and not particularly helpful when you're dealing with a tune such as this one. So that's just kind of my opinion on this. It doesn't work quite so well when you've got tunes based on riffs such as this one. It works fantastically for more traditional songs which are based on typical chord progressions. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Hope you found it useful, and hope you can find some ways of getting this Nashville Numbers stuff into your own musical life. So maybe you want to write out some charts if you're playing with some other people, if you're jamming or playing in a band. Maybe you just want to be able to write down some musical ideas of your own. It's a very, very powerful way of doing that. So good luck with it. If you want some extra practice with these charts, do just Google Nashville Numbers charts, and there's loads of stuff that comes up online, and you can just download a whole load of these charts and practice reading through them. And it's a great way for really getting familiar with the fretboard as well. And as I've said, working on your ear training too, you can learn to hear these chord progressions, and you actually start hearing and thinking in terms of these numbers of the root notes, and then hearing the chord qualities. So good luck with that, and I will see you next time.